Hello there, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here to be talking about The Odyssey, which is the newest film from Christopher Nolan, and it's based off the Homer's, epic poem, mainly about, the Battle of Troy, and of course the aftermaths after, following all these well-known Greek characters, like Odysseus, Athena, Circe, and a bunch of others, which is, obviously, like, this film has been really anticipated for many reasons, mainly because of who's involved with, whether it be the actors, like, obviously they have an all-star cast. Matt Damon, who leads, our main character, Tom Holland, who plays his son and also a really important role. Anne Hathaway is in here, Charlize Theron, Robert Pattinson, John Bernthal, Zendaya, like, just a huge cast of even like some other smaller names that you recognize from other stuff. Like, the thing with Nolan, especially in his recent films, is like similar with Oppenheimer. He has a huge ensemble of like big main leads, and then also he'll have like other like smaller but well-known actors or actresses that you know of from other stuff pop up for like a scene or two. And it kind of feels like that here, because I was watching the movie and like throughout, and I'm thinking, it's great and everything, and I'm like, I know this person from so and so. I know this person. So that added like another fun experience to watching the film, just in the back of my head while watching what was on screen. And obviously this was like a huge event, which is how every Christopher Nolan film feels now. Obviously with Oppenheimer, and he did the Dark Knight trilogy, Dunkirk, which I adored. It's a great film. So it feels like every time a new Nolan film comes out, there's this type of standard to it. It's gonna be well made with how it's shot. He is a big proponent of IMAX, and like the best quality imaginable, practical effects and all that good stuff. And this film has a lot of great sequences of like, there's these big like wide shots, and just the locations that they go to, and just how you feel so immersed, especially if you watch it on like a really fancy screen or like a great theater. You just get so immersed into the story. And there was not one moment in this almost 3-hour runtime, I believe, like it was basically 3 hours, that I was bored. And because there's some action or fight sequences and stuff, but it's mainly just, characters, talking exposition. And the thing that they did that I really like, it kind of reminds me a bit of Family Guy, and just hear me out, where Family Guy, they'll say like the joke, but then you'll have a visual representation of the joke that they just said. Well, for here, they'll be talking about something, and then it'll show like a flashback that's kind of like cut into like for maybe a few minutes or a few seconds, and it goes back to them talking about the thing. And I'm pretty sure I described that well, but I really did like that, because not only for people who are like, well, we don't really need to see a visual representation, but I personally do like that. So seeing like a character mention, about, hey, we're going off this is what happened when, Odysseus went off somewhere. And then it shows like probably a 3-minute scene of that they just described. And I personally like it, to see that visual representation. And there's many moments in the film where it keeps referencing, obviously, the big, the Battle of Troy. It references it and teases it and shows little bits of it throughout the film. It shows like, and it keeps cutting back to it. Like, this was obviously like a huge plot point, a huge moment for the overall story, because in terms of like chronologically, the battle is pretty quick and happens early, but the ramifications of the battle and seeing it in a different lens each time you visit it, and especially like near the end, not to regain the spoilers, but just, it's really haunting. And just like, I'm just sitting there thinking, wow, it wasn't all just like action stuff. There was more quieter, somber moments through that. And I thought, like, obviously Matt Damon, who leads here, he's great all the time. Like, he's a really great actor. But here, the amount of, emotion and just, like, he is definitely great leading man material. He did such a phenomenal job. Like, with pretty much everyone else in this cast, I don't think, even some questionable people, which I don't want to dive too much into, but obviously this film received a lot of controversy and backlash by what I like to call annoying people online, because whenever something gets popular or hyped up, you have people wanting to try to tear it down. And I remember this last year with Superman. A lot of these same type of people were trying to slander and attack Superman for their own agendas and reasons. And then when you actually watch the movie, most of the stuff they were claiming or didn't like wasn't really in it. And here, the stuff that I don't even want to get into their nitpicks, but I just think the best thing you could do to combat, the negativity and the haters is just to go and support it. And luckily, the film, as I expected, would be great. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the performances. The standouts, obviously Matt Damon. I really did like Tom Holland. I know he's been getting he's probably like the least respected in terms of his performance here, but I really did appreciate seeing him here, and I think he did a really solid job. Anne Hathaway, obviously, as Penelope, the wife. I think she portrays this like she's so distraught and so like upset, just waiting for him to return, while also being pressured by people who are like the suitors, as they're called. And it's just it's the whole like thing. Was her performance was really good. Robert Pattinson, who is such a scumbag in this movie, but he plays scumbags really well. He was great, obviously, and I really did enjoy his work. Some of the soldier people I thought were really great as well, and just the scenes like throughout. It's like throughout the film, like it keeps like there's basically two plot points. Like I'm trying to say is obviously what happens to Odysseus and his men. He's it's basically told like he's wondering like what happened to them, because he kind of lost his memory because he's like on this beach or whatever with this one lady who's played by Charlize Theron. And so he's trying to remember, and that's like flashbacks of like, after the battle, what happened, because they're trying to make their way home. It's like many, many years of them being gone from their home. And you learn, different sequences. There's this Cyclops thing that was insane. There's this moment with, I believe her name is Circe, which is probably one of the most disturbing, creepiest scenes I've ever seen in a film. That was absolutely disgusting with like, the pigs, and I don't even want to get too much into it, but it was so gross. And it's just that whole like learning about the soldiers and what they went through and how they're slowly getting picked off one by one. And it's just incredible. Tom Holland's character, the son going off to try to find his dad and all, which kind of like is like the B plot. The main plot that you're you're interested in is Matt Damon, Odysseus, that side. But the Tom Holland segment is also pretty interesting, and how they both coincide for the third act. Like this movie was just really well done, and I know there's been a lot of critiques about their accents don't really sound authentic to where it's supposed to take place. Some of the casting choices like Lupita Nyong'o and Corey Hawkins and other characters, but I was personally fine with it. I know a lot of people were upset, but by that logic, because they're upset for obvious reasons, but in technicality, I don't think any of the main actors here are like Greek or from that ethnicity, like of where the story is supposed to take place. But they're nitpicking on who they're upset about. And I will say, Elliot Page, I really did appreciate overall that they were in this film, because I know that I'm pretty sure they're friends with Christopher Nolan from Inception, and Nolan does this thing that I really like, where if they really like someone who works on a previous film with them, they'll bring them back multiple times, and I can respect that. Similar to James Gunn, who has his friends that he likes to work with, and he wants to support them and bring them back in some way. While they're also obviously talented at what they do, that's why they keep getting work. But I really like it when people look out for their friends like that, and so giving Elliot a role, especially with that was one of the main controversies that people complained about. I just thought it was nice of Nolan to do that. And obviously the film, as you can see, has done incredible so far. Just great all around, like the box office, the audience score, and the critics. Again, all well done. This film's gonna do great. It's probably gonna be a huge awards contender, no doubt. And I mean, everything about it was really great. I was fascinated throughout. It had, really solid performances, how it was filmed, the locations, some tense moments, a satisfying story to watch. It was just really a great film. But with all that said, those are my thoughts on The Odyssey. Again, what do you all think of this film? Please let me know down below in the comment section. And if you want to hit the bell as well to get notified when I upload, that means so much to me. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.